Good evening, everyone. I am Mohammad Ahmed Alvi. On the behalf of the Department of English and on my own behalf, welcome you all to the plenary session 2 of the two-day 19th International Biennial Symposium on Literature and Culture in the Asia-Pacific region on literature and the non-human, abrogating the Anthropocene. As the speaker for the session, we have amongst us Professor Shiv Talwar. Professor Shiv Talwar is a founding member of Spiritual Heritage Education Network Incorporated. Spiritual Heritage Education Network Incorporated, popular as SHAN, is an organization dedicated to the promotion, development, and delivery of formal and informal education in the spiritual heritage of humanity. This spiritual heritage is unifying beyond boundaries, and it forms the core spirituality of all religions. The only reason for the existence of Shan is to eliminate cruel exploitation by humans of other humans and of nature. Professor Talwar received his undergraduate degree in civil engineering from Punjab University in India, a master's from Lehigh University in Pennsylvania, USA, and a PhD from the University of Waterloo in Ontario, Canada. During his professional career, he taught at Thapar College of Engineering in Patiala, India, and served as the coordinator of civil engineering at Conestoga College in Kitchener, Ontario, Canada. Professor Talwar was profoundly impacted by the calamitous experience of identity tribalism on religious grounds during the partition of India in 1947. He strongly believed that an end must be put to that kind of hatred forever, and it was this experience that led him on his personal quest to search for the common core spirituality that underpins all religious and scientific knowledge. A hugely monumental task, not just in terms of difficulty, but in terms of the significant impact it can have on the survival and overall well-being of planet Earth. Years of questioning, study, research, probing, and extremely deep thought have gone into his efforts. With a greater understanding of how interconnected we all are, we will be better attuned to address the major issues facing the world today. Professor Talwar is also an award-winning author. He was awarded a Books for Peace International Award 2020 for his book, The Common Ground, which critics have praised as a masterpiece on the unity of science and spirituality. Today, Professor Talwar will be speaking on the topic, The Age of the Anthropocene, Provenance and Abrogation. This session will be chaired by our very own Professor Muhammad Sanaullah, Chairman, Department of Arabic, Aligarh Muslim University. Professor Sanaullah has a teaching career spanning over 30 years. To his credit, he has 11 books and over 150 research articles and book chapters. The research interest of Professor Sanaullah lies in the intersection of Islam and classical European literature, Sanskrit-Arabic linguistic interactions, and Arabic-Sanskrit etymology, among others. With the permission of the chair, I would like to request Professor Shiv Talwar to deliver his plenary address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Alvi, for this introduction. I am a technologist, essentially. That's what I have been doing all my life. And in the professional life, I was building bridges. And now I'm doing the same thing, except that the nature of bridges have changed. As per the introduction, I'm going to make a presentation on the provenance and abrogation of the age of Anthropocene. I like to work with slides, if you don't mind, and I'd like to share my screen with you. And that's what I will do. This is my opening screen. Spiritual Heritage Education Network is the organization that I work for, and acronym for it is SHEN, S-H-E-N. And its vision is to develop education that is all-inclusive. It includes the whole globe without any exception at all. And Age of the Anthropocene, Provenance and Abrogation is my topic. I would like to begin by thanking Professor Sami Rafiq of the Department of English and Professor Muhammad Asim Siddiqui, Chairperson of the Department of English at Aligarh Muslim University, for this opportunity of presenting this evening. Before I begin addressing my topic, I would like to express deep sense of delight and surprise that I felt upon being told by Professor Rafiq that Professor Muhammad Sanaullah Al-Nadawi will be the session chair. I met Professor Al-Nadawi in 2013 at the Chinmaya International Foundation at Valianad, Ernakulam in Kerala, at a 6-day conference on education in all-inclusive universal spirituality. I'm so delighted to see you again, Professor Al-Nadawi, after 9 years in November of 2022. Isn't it a small word after all? Now, on the topic, I'm setting the framework for my presentation here, talking about my beginning. And not only my beginning, everybody else's beginning. We are all from an infinitesimal germ cell, one cell growing to be a full-grown human being. And that is our biological beginning. And I present it in the form of a diagram on the right-hand side. The beginning is an infinitesimal one cell right here at this point, and it grows, becomes concrete more and more. And then now I've got 37.2 trillion cell body. And this is how I began, and I am. From one cell so many years ago to 37.2 trillion cells. And all of these cells are different. Some of these cells become my nose, some of them become my head, some of them become the tongue that I use to speak, some of them become ears, some of them become hands. All from that one cell, a huge variety of cells develop. And that is how I began, and that is how the universe began. In the universe, the infinitesimal that the universe begins from is also infinite. That is the difference. The infinitesimal cell that I am from, that can only make me. Whereas the infinitesimal, whatever it is, different people use different names. Some people call him Al-Haq, some people call him Brahma, some people call him the Spirit of God. It is referred to variously. That infinitesimal is also infinite in its potential. It creates everything in the universe and the universe itself. And the diagram here, again, starts from a point from this point, a growth begins or concretization begins. And in the beginning, things are so subtle that they are undefinable. And then discrete, definable things start to happen. The first principle that is created is akal, intellect. And then what is referred to as animal soul or animal mind, and then vegetative soul. And then comes what is called space. In space, we got all kinds of energy. We got electrochemical, electromechanical, all kinds of energy is there. So you can say this celestial here is different forms of energy in space. And then we got air, and then we got fire, then we got water, then we got earth. And these are the discrete principles of which this whole universe is made. Earth here stands for all solids, water stands for all liquids, fire stands for heat and light, air stands for different gases, all that are there in the atmosphere. And celestial talks about different kinds of energy that you experience in space. And these are the gross physical principles, whereas vegetative mind, animal mind, and intellect, these are the principles of which minds are made. And in Arabic, there's a word used, nafs, and that includes essentially the vegetative mind, the animal mind, and you can say the part of intellect which is directed towards outside. And then there's the rest of intellect directed inward. And that concept of nafs is important, and we'll talk about it as we go along. So we have a cosmic body, that's the universe, we have a cosmic mind, and without mind, nothing exists. What is mind? We'll talk about that. And what is the body? We'll talk about that. And here are some of the verses from the Quran on this kind of topic. I just picked two, but there are many more. The age of the Anthropocene, the idea, so you can say the term got used in 1980, but then atmospheric chemist Paul J. Crutzen regards the influence of the human behavior on Earth's atmosphere in recent centuries so significant as to constitute a new geological age of the Anthropocene. It is the human-centric ideas that are at the root of the exploitation of the environment that has occurred. It is a fact. It's not just an idea. Global warming is a fact. There are all kinds of measurements that are being made. And so the humans are essentially responsible for it because of various reasons. And the main reason is human-centric age that we have. Humans seem to be different from non-humans, and we'll talk about it. And that difference is not all that much, but we think we own the world. We can do whatever we can get away with. So the origin of the age of Anthropocene, although the terminology is new, but the age started a long time ago. Excuse me. Life on autopilot, that is a major reason. We have a mind which is unconscious, and that is the biggest part of our mind. And then comes the subconscious, and then the conscious mind, the intellect is part of the conscious mind. And that we think we are blessed with, and we are blessed with it, but we abuse it to serve the unconscious and the subconscious. So our life is on autopilot because whatever is unconscious is kind of like an automatic machine. And things go so fast when things are automatic. When we do things consciously, thinking is involved, and that slows things down. There are many things that we do, and we do them automatically, and that is the key reason we don't do enough things consciously. That is one of the reasons. And then what happens when things are done automatically, there is so much mental activity going on at the same time. So the mental oscillations, the speed is so high that we cannot learn anything deeply. We stay on the surface of everything. So relentless mental oscillations or distractions or mental fluctuations, whatever name you give them, it's a gift of the unconscious and the subconscious, leading to reductionist understanding that fails to capture the whole truth, promoting intellectual laziness, resulting in believing over seeking the truth. So we are not concerned with seeking the truth, finding out what the truth is. We just believe, and we become so intellectually lazy that we are happy with half-truths or alternative facts rather than knowing the facts. And that is what happens as a result of high speed of mental fluctuations, and which the key reason, the background reason is, underlying reason is life on autopilot, life which is run by the unconscious and the subconscious mind. And one of the reductionist ideas that we have come up with, an anthropomorphic creator God, the age-old theistic idea of a God in the image of man, creating the universe and then lording over it with a carrot and stick as the real origin of the age of the Anthropocene. That is when really the age of the Anthropocene started, when we thought of God as we think of man. And God with a human personality. And that idea, when that developed, that's when the age of the Anthropocene developed. And that is the reductionist idea. Essentially, it doesn't really tell you the whole truth, what God is really like. And it leads to other things. Some reductionist understanding of non-human related scriptural wisdom. Let us see what the scriptures say. I just picked a couple of verses from Genesis. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Professor Sanawla, please let me know if I'm taking too much time. I get carried away on this subject. So dominion word is very misunderstood. Reductionist understanding is I'm the king, I own everything, I can use it, I can manipulate it, I can exploit it, I can eat it. And really speaking, what here the scripture says is, let us make man in our image, like I am sovereign of the whole universe. I am responsible for running it. I take care of it, essentially. Not I made the universe to lord over it, to be responsible, make sure it runs properly. So that kind of sovereign is different from the sovereignty that we have assumed. And God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree in which the fruit of a tree yielding seed to you, that shall be your meat. Is implied here that you eat plant-based food and you don't kill those non-humans in your domain. So factory farming for meat production is significantly responsible for environmental degradation in many ways, such as water pollution, deforestation, global warming, greenhouse gas emissions such as nitrous oxide, methane, carbon dioxide, etc. Besides being a wasteful, inefficient way of protein consumption. My farming friends tell me that you have to feed an animal 7 pounds of protein to get 1 pound of protein back. And that is the kind of waste this is. Forget about moral responsibilities, compassion. Let's forget about that. They are for us to be protected. They are for us to be, take care of, not exploit. And how do we abrogate that? My idea is educate in holistic science. Educate holistically, and with that holistic understanding, reductionist ideas will disappear, and we'll start living more inclusively as far as non-humans are concerned, and more inclusively as far as various religions are concerned, and various races are concerned, and various whatever lines of differences are concerned. They should go. We are all human beings, and human beings are meant to live as humans, not as this, that, and the other. And the basic idea of holistic science, as you can see here, This green square you see is wisdom of the scriptures. And the blue one is social sciences and humanities. And the red one is life sciences, biology and stuff like that, and natural sciences. And there's an area which is common to them all. That is called holistic science. In my opinion, if our education includes holistic science, that part of the scripture which seamlessly converges with social sciences, life sciences, and natural sciences. Because these sciences or the disciplines that we teach, they themselves are reductionist. And the scripture, some ideas in the scripture are also reductionist because scripture is written for general use. But a lot of ideas over there are holistic and take those ideas that are holistic. Those ideas are also scientific, psychologically correct, philosophically correct. According to our biology, they are correct. According to our physiology, neurophysiology, whatever you can say, they're all correct ideas. They seamlessly converge with them. And how the universe came about is a natural science idea, physics, a Big Bang. And those science and spirituality put together in a seamless convergence between them is what I would say is what is the way out of the human-centric thoughts. And it is out of those thoughts that pit one human being against the other and half humanity against the other. Women against men, men against women, whites against browns and blacks and greens. You know, you can say whatever. I think what I'll do is I'll take a break here and see how things are going. And then I may come back to it. Maybe it's about time that we engage in question and answers, some kind of discussion on what has been said. Professor Sanawala, am I permitted to do that, or should I finish before? If I have time, I can go back to I have a few more slides to show.
I think you should go ahead, Professor Shiv
Okay.
Talwar.
All right, then I will do exactly that. And please let me know. I don't want to go beyond my limit. Okay, here again, I quote the Genesis, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved over the face of waters. In the beginning, to be sure, nothing existed, neither the heaven nor the earth, nor space in between. So non-being, heaven decided to be. Non-being is a reference to Al-Haq. became spirit and said, "Let me be." He warmed himself further, and from this heating was born fire. He warmed himself still further, and from this heating was born light. And this is Taittiriya Brahmana of the Rig Veda. See how they align, and see how they align with science. The universe entered with the Big Bang, and the temperature of the Big Bang was a few billion degrees Celsius. And even now, the universe is cooling. Look at the sun. What would be the temperature on the face of the sun? And the earth really cooled enough to sustain life 3.5 billion years ago. And the universe, according to science, has been almost 15 billion years. So it took 10.5 billion years for the planet, 10 billion years for the planet Earth to form, and another billion years for it to cool enough to be able to sustain life. And heating is the key that caused the explosion, or the explosion caused the heat. What caused what, nobody knows. What happened the first few seconds of the Big Bang, nobody can know, nobody can calculate. Scientists have calculated what happens after the Big Bang, what happened after 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 5 years or 1,000 years, that they can calculate. But what happens in the very beginning, they cannot calculate. All they can say is there was the whole universe crunched up into so densely that it was all in one point. And from that one point, explosive forces created the universe. So when things were all crunched up, there were very strong attractive forces. Then the repulsive forces came along and they created the Big Bang. That is how it happened in science. And that is what the Vedas is talking about. That is what essentially what Genesis is alluding to. Those are the things that are hugely meaningful to for the abrogation of the human-centric word. We are from the same Big Bang. We are from the same source. Humans are no different than non-humans. Starting from that one point, the Big Bang created an expansive universe. Universe is still expanding. And now the size, the diameter of the universe is 92 billion light years. What is a light year? Light year is the distance light travels in 1 year. And the speed of light is 186,000 miles per second. You can imagine the size of the universe is unimaginable. 186,000 miles per second, then how many seconds are in a year? Multiply 186,000 by that number, and then 92 billion. That is the size of the universe coming out of the Big Bang. It's like, 37.2 trillion cells coming out of one cell. That is an individual story. Here we're talking of the universal story. In the beginning, God created heaven and the earth. Heaven here is a reference to the mind. And earth is a reference to the word. We are all made from dust of the ground. And that is what the talk here is. What is heaven and what is earth? What is mind and what is body, according to different scriptures? Let's look at an individual. And the mind in general, cosmic mind or matter, whatever you may call it, there are three kinds of forces that run the interactions of the universe. There's the force of non-differentiation, the force of love, force of compassion. This is the attractive force that kept the whole thing together. Okay? And then separation came, universe got created. First got created was matter. Okay? So in the beginning, there was one force that, what we call the unified physical force, that ran the interactions between different kinds of matter. Okay? And we all know in chemistry, one kind of matter joins with another kind of matter to produce a third kind of matter. Okay, so matter interacts. So there's mind, matter's got mind, and that mind is run according to that unified physical force. And that unified physical force later on split into gravitation, electromagnetism, and strong and weak, what do you call, I forget the words anyways, not important. And then the third force, that force works in the domain of life. Life is different from matter because life is born and it dies. And survival is the big force there. And survival comes in different varieties. Is keeping your body safe, and then sustaining the body with food, and then, procreation is part of survival, because if you do not procreate, the universe doesn't survive. So our individual survival and letting the species go, run the circle of life going, we need to reproduce. And those are the forces that are built in. And then we have the herd identity. Okay, so this is the unified physical force, becomes four forces: gravitational forces, electromagnetic force, strong nuclear force, and weak nuclear force. And then in life forms that God developed over 3.5 billion years ago, roughly. In the very beginning, we're very tiny, single-cell life, and then evolution happened. About 200,000 years ago, humans appeared. Modern humans appeared. And where do we get our mind from? We get a mind from all of these through genetic inheritance. That is what mind is. When we are born, we knew something. There are unlearned traits that we have got. We have some inclinations of the mind that are learned or learned, and some are unlearned. The unlearned mind is essentially survival oriented. We know how to save ourselves to some extent, depending upon our body. We know how to eat food. We also know nobody teaches us how to procreate. That is an unlearned trait that we get from our genes. And herd or ego identity, based upon rationale of safety or survival, we get from our genes also. So those forces are what keep the mind working. Genesis. Here is the spirit. And spirit starts to concretize into my body. And the initial principles of concretization are too subtle to be identified. And then comes akal. And then comes ego. In Genesis, it's called Eve. But by Avicenna, it's called animal mind or animal soul. Sensory faculty, Genesis refers to as serpent. Intellect is referred to as Adam. And from here to here is rational part of the mind. And then here is, you can say, mind that transcends rationality. Rationality, the source of rationality is our sensory faculty, our organs of senses. If I see black, it is black. It cannot be anything else. Whereas that is rationality. Okay, so rational logic is logic based upon our sense perception. Wisdom goes beyond it. Okay, for example, I cannot see with my eyes what is same between you and I. You have a different body, I have a different body. My eyes can only see distinct people, distinct things. But my wisdom can see you are a human being and I'm a human being. So we are something similar to each other. And not only that, that our underlying source is the spirit. That comes from here. And if my consciousness is at this location or here or even here in the rational part of the intellect, then I cannot see that. And the division between the rational part and the wisdom part, that division is, you can say, our DNA, our genetic inheritance. Genetic inheritance is all survival oriented. So rational mind is survival oriented. And when it comes to wisdom, when it comes to compassion, when it comes to love, you're not worried about your survival. You're worried about the object of your love. You are worried about the object of your compassion. People are known to sacrifice their lives for others. And that comes from here. When we transcend our genetic traits of survival, then only we can hope to unify humanity. Then only we can hope to work for the non-human and the rest of the humanity. This is the second part. Genesis uses two different terminology. In the previous terminology, this was the serpent. Here it's called the creaturely soul, and then the animal soul, just like Avicenna or Ibn Said was his name, and human soul. And when the Bible talks about we have created you in our own image to have dominion over the animal and the creatures, that is what is implied. The intellect here is human soul has got dominion over animal and creaturely soul. Or this part of his wisdom has got dominion over all of them, has got dominion over nafs. You can go beyond nafs that way. And this is Judaism. They call it nefesh, ruah, and neshama. And here I put Avicenna's and in the Indian system, the Vedic system together. No, this is the Vedic system only, not maybe the next one. Here, I'll try to put them together. I've used the Sanskrit words along with Avicenna's words. Conscious mind is buddhi, subconscious is ahankar, vegetative mind is manas. And this is called, in Sanskrit, the word here is akash, vayu, agni, jal, bhumi. And from here to here is nafs, or the rational part. And that is where I think I'll try to put the two together. The three faculties of the mind: unconscious is automatic, instantaneous, stimulus response behavior, very high speed activity. Scope is automatic physiology. Everything that happens in our body that is run by the mind or the brain, you can say. The activity of the unconscious is 24/7. No rest for it at all. And then subconscious is the emotional mind. It is semi-automatic. Stimulus response behavior is immediate, reactive behavior without any consideration, high speed, and the scope of it is emotions, high activity in waking and dreaming state. It only works in the waking and dreaming state, whereas the unconscious works 24/7. Not only waking, dreaming state, also in sleeping state. So these two they underlie what is called the automatic behavior of humans. And these two underlie the reductionist thoughts that we got. They keep us away from each other. They keep us divided. And to get together, to unify, we need the conscious mind. And even the conscious mind, if it is limited to survival or rationality, then it is not going to be getting there. But we got to go beyond rationality of the eyes and ears and noses, our physical organ-based thinking. That kind of rationality, then only we can unify. And I'll skip this. Now here you can see the different forces. We have the body. There is the electromagnetic forces and gravity and weak and strong. I forget that word anyways. What has got atoms, and we got in the atom nucleus, weak and strong nuclear forces. So those forces are acting in our body. We all know our brain, the activity of the brain is electromagnetic. Okay, so that force is important as far as our body is concerned. The nervous system works electromagnetically. And in the mind, we got the divisive survival forces acting from here to here. Up to the DNA, that's when the nafs stops. And that's where the effect of genetic inheritance stops. And then beyond there, this is driven by the force of non-differentiation. So the forces that we talked about initially are all within us. I'm going to show how we can raise our consciousness with practices as simple as breathing deep. Okay. Let us say in our normal waking state, this is our mind. This is our conscious mind. A tip of the iceberg above the surface of the ocean is the conscious mind. This is Freud's psychology. He uses that metaphor, and it's very apt. The metaphor is very appropriate. Unconscious is deep down in the ocean. This is the biggest, and then the subconscious. Then there is interaction between the subconscious and the unconscious. What was unconscious becomes subconscious, and what is subconscious becomes unconscious, keeps on going like that. And then also interaction between the subconscious and unconscious. And when we talk of mental fluctuations, it is there. These are the mental fluctuations. Once we get rid of them, then we can focus. Why can't we learn? Because our mind cannot focus. And if the mind cannot focus, we cannot learn. So our understanding is going to be very, very superficial. And so we can take our consciousness up to here. And if we do some more deep breathing, okay, effort to breathe deep, some effort, we can take our consciousness here, we can realize what our body is, how it works, and so on and so forth. And if we take a little more time to breathe deep, we can take our consciousness here. We can also realize how our senses work, how they keep us running around in circles. Okay. And we are still in the domain of nafs. Okay. We are still in the domain of rationality. The more we know, the more we understand, we are closer to the truth. And if we go further, we can take our consciousness there. We are still in the divisive state, but we are closer to the truth of oneness. And we go there, we are at the end of nafs. We are now going to transcend our genetic inheritance. And we keep applying more effort, more deep breathing. The more we do it, the deeper we go. And the higher is our consciousness. Okay. So that is a simple thing to teach. And you can, you have to go into neurophysiology, breathing physiology teaching, and so on and so forth, how that works with the mind, how it calms the mind, how, this is all life science that is part of our life. We can teach that part of life science to create the conviction in this process so that people can sit and do nothing but breathe. And that is very hard for many people to take 5 minutes away and do some breathing and calming the mind, raising the consciousness. That kind of activity people rebel at because they think they're wasting their time doing nothing but breathing deep. But that transforms them. Okay. And if you talk of people like Rumi's 4 practices. The first practice was eating light. The second practice was breathing deep. Eat lightly, breathe deeply, and gaze intently. Pay attention to things. When you breathe deeply, your mind is calm. You have reduced the volume of mental traffic. Mind is calm. It's not that distracted. You can focus it on something that you're looking at. Gaze intently. And then he has a very joyous body. He likes to dance, move freely, eat lightly. 40 days of fasting, great. But even when you're not in 40 days of fasting, eat lightly, breathe deeply. It is breathing deep that gives you oxygen, more oxygen. If the breathing is deeper, it gives you more oxygen than you would get otherwise. And it's a biological fact that a molecule of glucose from food can combine with two molecules of oxygen to produce two molecules of ATP. That is the energy currency of the body. Whereas if you have a lot of oxygen available, one molecule of glucose from food can combine with 6 molecules of oxygen to produce 36 molecules of ATP. 18 times more energy from the same food you can get if you supply yourself with a lot more oxygen. So here I'm making a request to please work with us, help us fast track the kind of education that is our mission that we have been talking about. I think that is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much, Professor Snaula, for letting me continue.
Thank you so much, sir, for your enlightful talk. Now I will request the chair, Professor Sanaullah, to share his remarks on the plenary talk. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Elvi sir. It was really a sheer pleasure and honor to be here in your platform with the scientist, the scholar, the seer, all in one, in the persona of Professor Talwar Sahab, whom I had the golden opportunity to interact under the banner of some interfaith dialogue in South. The striking ontological as well as epistemological parallelisms of similarity or closeness that one notices while going through the scriptures of East or West. One is propelled to advance the cause of holistic approach towards reality. How to interpret it, how to have a harmonious, holistic worldview. The ecological imbalance caused by humans in the aftermath of Anthropocene and its provenance in different quarters of thought in East and West. This imbalance has caused enormous harm to the very meaningfulness of the continuity of humanity on this globe, which is regarded philosophically very beautiful. This theme, which has been dealt with in all schools of thought and philosophy in East and West. And here I'll be just citing certain examples and paradigms from the Arabian perspectives. One sees that the ecological balance and sustainability have been the guiding spirits in the 2 millennia literary saga of Arabia. This was in conformity to the legacy of relationship between physics, humanity, and theology, which has been a major topic of philosophical debate in Arab culture, as religion and science are twin pillars of every civilization. Philosophical schools and worldviews, Greek, Babylonian, Indian, Chinese, Tibetan, Islamic, etc., have a concept of 4 or 5 basic elements that reflects the simplest essential parts and principles of which anything consists, or upon which the constitution and fundamental powers of anything are based. Most frequently, basic elements refer to earth, water, air, and fire. The atomist and anti-atomist Greek philosophers sought to explain natural occurrences and daily phenomena without the need of resorting to supernatural explanation and believing in heavenly or earthly deities. But the approach was adopted by a section of the Hellenized monotheistic Abbasids from the Arab history, especially the Mutakallimin, in their attempt to prove the all-encompassing efficacy of an omnipotent God. However, in their adoption of this cosmological view, they ensured that they sufficiently modified it as to confirm with and eventually support their theological positions. Description of man-nature equilibrium has been a hallmark of Arabic literary trajectories through ages. Here, when we just look into the literary legacy of Arabia in past and present, we have the Arab discourse of nature. Besides the canonical Islamists, the traditionalists and jurists, and of course the chart that was provided by Ibn Sina, which was brilliantly explained by Professor Talwar Sahab, with some striking similarities from science, Hellenistic philosophy, and scriptures, biblical scriptures, and insights. How spring was related to childhood, summer was related to youth, autumn was related to maturity, winter was related to age, and how earth and water, they are related in terms of tendency, bodily system, excretion, and senses, etc. So in a nutshell, what we have in the numerous books and volumes produced by philosophers, scientists, and mutakallimin like Jabir ibn Hayyan, Al-Ghazali, etc., what is projected in clear terms is a multiversal cosmology. This multiversal cosmology is projected in the writings of the Sufis, the mutakallimin, and besides the muses in different phases of Muslim history. Another striking balance we do find while Shiv Talwar Sahab was elaborating upon this connection between different cultures, Eastern as well as Western cultures. What strikes us is the Kabbalistic and Indian collections and Indian connections, where letters in Arabic, as propounded by different philosophers. They said that Alif, Ha, Ta, Mim, Fa, Shin, Zad, for example, they represent fire. Za, Kaf, Jim, Sin, etc., they represent air. Ha, La, A, etc., represent water. And Ba, Waw, Ye, Nun, etc., represent earth. So this was just to explain the very paradigm that has been presented in a verse of the Holy Quran, in which said that Umamun amthalukum. That is, we actually live in a universe in which every unit is umam, that is communes, communities, amthalukum, just like you. So this reality is to be incorporated in our worldview. And if we just incorporate this worldview in our lifestyle, in our culture, in our pedagogy, especially in modern times. So what comes to the fore, I must be allowed here to refer to some famous sayings of the Sufis. Here it will be Tattvamasi, which could be translated as An al-Haq, that was propounded by Hallaj. And it was, of course, Aham Brahmasmi. And when there is a famous verse in the Holy Quran, Huwa al-awwalu wal-akhiru wal-zahiru wal-batinu wa huwa ala kulli shayin qadir. Here we simply recollect Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudasate, Purnasya Purnamadaye, Purnameva Vashishate. And likewise, the very essence of Gayatri Mantra, if we just recollect it. Again, what strikes us is some resemblances between what has been put in Muslim scriptures as well as what we find in the Gospel. Like خَلَقَ اللَّهُ آدَمَ عَلَى صُورَتِهِ. This is a very famous hadith from Sahih Bukhari. That the simple translation, literal translation would be, God created Adam on his own image. So if we have to have this vision of this holistic vision and holistic vision of word and values in our life, we have to unify the human with the non-human, science with what could be termed as non-science, just as the fashion of virtus verborum of Middle Ages, which is found in the writings of Muslim philosophers as well as in the writings of Ramon Lull, especially virtus verborum, in which the material aspects of universe are seen to be in direct conversation with the ultimate reality. If this is our motto and this guides our vision, our mission, our initiatives in amid today's hard and harsh realities, which do have plenty of devastating effects in the very fabric of our life, we think the humanity will be able to at least assist the entire world in its strive to find a more beautiful, peaceful, and holistic solutions for the problems of life. And hence, we will be able to have a more beautiful, more harmonious, and holistic life. With this, I congratulate the organizers. I must congratulate the learned speaker. I must thank Professor Asim Sahab and his learned colleagues and all the collaborators of this seminar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for adding more dimensions to the talk. Before we formally close the session, I would like to extend my gratitude to our panelists, Professor Shiv Talwar and Professor Sanaullah, for taking out time from their busy schedules and enriching us with their thought-provoking ideas.
Emmer, can I just come in?
Sure,
Can I just come in for just 1 minute?
sure, sir. Sure, sir.
I must say that it was a very scholarly session. And I must say that the remarks of the chair were equally scholarly. Thoroughly enjoyable session. And that is what a big symposium like this is all about. We had a learned speaker and we had a very learned chair. Thank you very much for making this session so good.